Rockstar Games' first game. Grand Theft Auto is the reason the gaming industry learned that giving players total freedom is a very dangerous idea and extremely profitable. The game was released in 1997 by DMA Design, long before Rockstar Games was known as the king of open-world games. Funny enough, the first GTA wasn't even a realistic 3D game. You viewed a small city from above, like you were watching criminal ants, but it already had everything. Stealing cars, running from the police, hitting pedestrians, then repeating it all because a life of crime turns out to be pretty fun in pixel form. And the best part? The aggressive police system that's now a defining feature of GTA actually started as a bug. The developers noticed players enjoyed being chased by the cops and said, "Don't fix it, this is fun." That became the foundation of a franchise that would eventually produce Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto 6. So yes, one of the biggest game series in history was born because a group of Scottish developers decided that chaos should be a core feature. Valve's first game. Half-Life was the moment FPS games stopped being just rooms and shotguns and started trying to become a true cinematic experience. Released in 1998 as Valve's first game, Half-Life felt like a wild experiment by two former Microsoft employees who were too ambitious to know when to stop. And that's exactly what made it legendary. While other FPS games were still focused on running and shooting without much context, Half-Life put you in the role of Gordon Freeman, a silent scientist trapped in the Black Mesa laboratory after an experiment turns into an interdimensional disaster. No big cutscenes, no dramatic level complete screens. The game world keeps moving in front of you like a movie that never pauses. Enemy AI felt intelligent. The lab felt alive. Emergency alarms, panicking scientists, aliens pouring through portals. Everything made players in 1998 think, okay, this is different. And from that chaos came Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Steam. Half-Life isn't just a game, it's Valve's Big Bang. Sega's first game. This isn't the Sega you know today. No Sonic, no Yakuza, not even anything you'd call a video game by modern standards. This is 1966, and this was a massive arcade machine, not digital, no screen. You literally looked through a periscope, like a submarine operator, then fired torpedoes at enemy ship. The explosion effects? Not graphics, lights and mechanical parts. At the time, it felt futuristic, a bit absurd, but that was exactly the appeal. Sega, through figures like David Rosen, wasn't a gaming giant yet. They were still operating in the amusement machine business, but Periscope changed everything. The game became an international hit, from Japan to the United States. It even helped popularize the 25 cents per play model, that later became the arcade standard. Before the world knew Mario or Pac-Man, Sega had already made people stand in front of giant machines, pretending to fight at sea. Now, they build complex 3D worlds and cinematic stories. Back then, Sega only needed one periscope, to make you feel like you were in the middle of a war. Mojang's first game. Minecraft is proof that humans can spend thousands of hours of their lives just punching cube-shaped trees. The game was created in 2009 by Marcus Persson, a developer who looked at an industry full of realistic graphics and said, what if everything looked like broken Lego instead? And somehow that became one of the best ideas in gaming history. While other games were busy delivering dramatic missions and expensive cutscenes, Minecraft gave players an empty world and a mild existential crisis. No clear objective, no meaningful ending. You just spawn in the middle of a forest, punch a tree, then panic build a makeshift house before zombies show up at night. And that's exactly the magic of it. Minecraft gives players total freedom to build anything. Castles, computers, futuristic cities, or massive mining holes that somehow always end with falling into lava. And from this simple block-based game came millions of YouTube channels, community servers, and a generation of players who instinctively start punching trees every time they enter a new world. Capcom's first game. Capcom's first game wasn't horror, not zombies, not giant monsters, not even muscular fighters yelling Hadouken. It was baseball. Yes, the company that would go on to create Resident Evil 4 and Street Fighter 6 began with tiny pixel players hitting a ball in Japanese arcades back in 1983. It was called Little League. The gameplay was extremely simple. Hit the ball, throw pitches, score runs, done. Because arcade games in the 80s didn't care about deep storytelling. They cared about one thing, keeping players dropping in coins. And strangely, it worked. At the time, Capcom didn't look like an industry giant. They were more like a company that figured out how to turn digital baseball into a coin-hungry machine. But that's where it all started. Learning fast gameplay, learning arcade design, learning how to make players say, just one more round. Ironically, Capcom is now known for biological monsters, brutal fights, and massive dragons. But its foundation was built on a simple sports game, likely played standing in a room filled with cigarette smoke and the noise of aging arcade machines. Konami's first game. Before Konami created legendary soldiers, psychological horror monsters, and soccer simulations, they made players get lost in a tiny pixel maze. One of their earliest games in 1981 was called Maze, and it was exactly what the name suggests. Enter a maze, run from enemies, collect points, don't die. That's it. It's hard to believe the company that would go on to create Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater, and Silent Hill 2 started with gameplay that was basically lost and trying to find a way out. But that's how the early 1980s game industry worked. Arcade hardware at the time could barely handle displaying multiple objects at once. So developers thought, why not just make players panic in narrow corridors? And strangely, it worked. The longer you played, the faster the enemies got, the higher the pressure, and players kept dropping in coins chasing a bigger score. Nintendo's first game. Nintendo didn't begin its gaming history with Mario, not Zelda, not even with something you'd truly call a video game. Their first game in 1975 was called EVR Race, and it was basically a horse racing betting machine with a video screen. The gameplay was incredibly ambitious. Insert a coin, pick a horse, then sit back and watch a recorded race while hoping you didn't choose wrong. That's it. No complex controls, no skill involved. The horses weren't even computer graphics, just video footage, because the technology at the time couldn't handle a real racing game. And from this simple machine, Nintendo learned that the arcade industry could make serious money. Ironically, the company that would go on to create Super Mario Bros. Wonder and The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom started out with a pick a horse and prey simulator. When you think about it, that's very Nintendo. They looked at a basic betting machine and thought, what if someday we turn this into an Italian plumber jumping around?